I'm Ali, CEO and founder of AAB Security Consulting. And today I'm going to be sitting here and having a discussion with Sandile regarding all things security and specifically church security. I think with the current climate that we're facing, just with how out of control things have been regarding the church attacks, etc., I think it's quite fitting and relevant for us to have this. And seeing that no one's done this, we thought that based off our backgrounds, which what we'll do is we'll definitely share some background as to why and what makes us qualified to speak on this topic. So yeah, Sandile, please, man, introduce yourself. Tell us more about you.
Yeah, well, guys, hi, Sandile Khanyile. That's my name. I think I'm young enough to say my age. I'm not above 40 yet. You know, when you get to 40, people tend to kind of leave that out. So 35 years old. Originally from Durban, South Africa. Currently based in Pretoria, in South Africa. Man, how I got into the industry? It was through the church, right? So I grew up in the church. I love the church. And at my home church in Durban, we used to have annual conferences. So I remember them called Jesus conferences. And I used to take leave from work and I just go hang out in a conference for a week. So the one time I've decided I'm going to take leave, I'm at home. I remember this. I'm at home. I fall asleep. I'm going to sleep on the floor. I wake up. I've got about 7 missed calls on my phone. A friend of mine. I'm like, hey, what's up? He's like, hey, man, can you come to church in like 30 minutes, wear a golf t-shirt, look smart, and be cool. I go to church. As I get into the parking lot, he throws car keys at me. I'm like, he's like, hey, man, you're going to be one of my drivers for the conference. I'm like, cool, let's do this, right? I think it was like an H1 or whatever. He has a schedule. You're going to pick up certain people. So I go to the hotel. Okay. 2 years before that, I'm at church. I walk into a bookshop. I'm not lying to you. I walk into a bookshop and I see this pastor preaching on TV. Amazing miracles. I'm just like, I've never seen anything. I'm like, God, one day I want to work for him. And I walk out. And I walk and I leave.
Wow.
2 years later, now I'm back in this parking lot and I get keys to pick up guests. To pick up guests in a hotel. Only to find out I'm picking up the pastor's protection team. So, bro, I'm driving this guy. I'm thinking, wait, what's happening, right? I pick them up. We had a good time. I drop them off the last day. In a hotel, I hear sandals. Who is Sandals? I'm thinking, that could be me, right? So I'm like, you mean Sandile? The guy's like, he's like, hey, were you driving my guys? I'm like, yeah. Bro, this guy takes out his business card. He's like, man, if you are ever in America, let me know. I'm thinking, wow, when will I ever be in America? How is it going to happen? Yeah. Right? Back then, there was no WhatsApp and stuff like that. So I emailed him. It will take like 2-3 weeks to reply because we're busy traveling the world, right? And then what I did, I used to align my leave whenever they're going to be in South Africa, and I'll volunteer, right? So I'll save money throughout the year, and I'll pay my way to volunteer just to hang around with these guys because I'm like, hey, man, I love what these guys are doing.
Wow.
And now, little did I know, but now this is now God connecting me with these people that work for that pastor that I saw on TV about 2 years back.
Wow.
2013, I end up in Cape Town, right? And the same guys were back in South Africa again. And they're like, hey, man, can you help? I'm like, no, now I've moved to Cape Town. They're like, okay, cool, you can help us in Cape Town, right? So I go to the airport. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick them up at the airport. And I'm standing there. So there's 2 different flights. So the team is going to fly into one specific airport. The pastor and his team are going to fly into a smaller airport. Dude, this is so crazy. So the flight with the security team gets delayed. And now the pastor and his team are going to arrive in the city before the security team.
What?
I'm standing there, bro. It's almost like God speaks to me. Like, don't worry about these guys. I never done 1, 2, 3, 4. To set up for the other team.
Wow.
So I leave the airport, I call a cab, I go to the other smaller regional airport. I call them like, hey guys, I'm Sandile. I know you guys don't know me. I'm working with the team that's coming in. I've got no details. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I just know they're going to be here. Can you help me? I need 3 cars to be lined up like this, whatever. They're like, okay, we'll take your word. Imagine. They're like, yeah, we're going to trust you, but you can't drive the cars. I said, I'm cool. They park the cars, right? I'm like, okay, I'm waiting. Bro, so the door cracks open. One of the team members sees me walking with his client, who is the pastor I saw on TV.
Wow.
The guy who walks through the door, he's like, I'm like, because the client can't see that we're thinking, what the heck is going on? I'm like, oh, welcome to the class. Bro, so they jump in. So I'm like, okay, guys, I'll see you. He's like, no. I'm like, what do you mean, no? He's like, you're driving him. I'm like, I'm driving him. I'm like, I don't even know the city. I just moved in like 3 weeks ago. I had an iPad. Bro, I get into the iPad quickly. I Google the directions. I give him to the guy. He holds me and I'm just driving. That's how I got into the industry, right? I'm just driving like this. I'm just driving like this. So eventually we get to the hotel, do a small intro. Yeah, God opened some amazing doors. 2 years later, I'm working at a church in Durban still. And I get a call. I remember I just finished a security team meeting, I think, or our normal Tuesday team meetings. I'm on the second floor at the church. I get a call. Guess who's calling me? It's the pastor I'd seen on TV that I'd worked with. He's calling me from his home in America.
Shoo.
I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I walk to the balcony. I'm like, hello, sir. He's like, hey, Sandile, how are you? I'm like, sir, I'm good. How are you doing? Oh, how did he get my phone number? He got my phone number 2 years ago, well, a few months ago when he was in South Africa and I helped him. And the only reason he got my number because there was no other local number that worked.
Wow.
His security guys' numbers didn't work in South Africa.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up traveling with him because I could just get hold of service providers.
Yeah.
So he calls me. He's like, hey, man, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good as well. Look, I'm going to Nigeria in about a month. Can you come with me to Nigeria? I'm like, yeah, sure thing. I can get to Nigeria. He says, are you sure? I think my confidence was so horrible. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I can do this. Bro, end up getting a Nigerian visa, go and work with him. He's like, from there, hey, we sitting together. He's like, hey, from here, I'm going to Israel. Can you come with me to Israel? I'm like, yeah, I can go to Israel. So next thing I'm going to fly him to Israel, right? So, and then I ended up working with him and his family for a couple of years. So that's how I got into the industry.
Wow. Yeah.
So I didn't go the conventional route. Then I did, the relevant trainings and stuff like that after that. But really, everybody believes they were called into this industry.
Yes. No, you were really called.
I was really called into this industry because also after I saw him on TV, I said that I'm in a youth service. This pastor called, amazing move of the spirit. In this prayer, and I remember this like this Wayne Huff, Pastor Wayne Huff. He's praying for people and he comes with like Sandile. I'm like, what? I'm not what. I'm just like, because he's like, man, I can see God has called me to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 around the world. I'm thinking, I've got no clue what you're talking about. It sounds good, but I've got no clue what you're talking about.
Wow.
Bro, down the line, 2, 3 years later, God connects me with these people.
Wow.
And here I am, man. That's how I was really called into this industry, and I think that's why I love it so much.
Amazing.
And then I did the relevant trainings, as I said, through 3 different institutions around the world. One in South Africa, one in Serbia. No, 2 in South Africa, in fact, 1 in Serbia. And then, I just been grinding my way out like everybody else, man, putting in, the hard work. And, I think that the friction, man, that comes between middle management and us, firstly, is the fact that nobody really understands what we do.
Yeah.
Right? Because generally when we come into a setup, we come in either we are brought in, it's almost like an emergency, or we are brought in, we're there, but there's never a thorough explanation of
what we do.
This is like when there's a new finance person, it's known, okay, this is the new head of finance. They're responsible for budgeting, for this, for that. This is the HR person responsible for. So that process, when we come into the picture, is never really there. So staff sees us, they're like, wait, you driving my boss? Why are you driving my boss?
Yeah.
Right? So then automatically is like, who do you even report to?
Yeah.
Oh, I report to facilities. The facilities person is like, wait, I'm in charge of the whole building. You're reporting to me about security. So are you there to tell me how to do my job?
Yeah.
Because you're going to come and be like, hey, that shouldn't really be. So the friction comes because firstly, people don't understand what we're there about. And then on the other side, Now, people who've been on staff for 10, 15 years now see you sitting with a pastor in his car. They're like, is it better than me?
Yeah.
Right? But what people don't understand is the responsibility that puts us there is so huge.
Yeah.
That I'm there with him when you're at home sleeping.
Yes.
When he leaves service, I'm there with him, taking him to certain places.
Yeah.
I'm there with him when you are off and he's not off.
Yeah.
Right? So how now we navigate that, I think for me, is just having honest conversations. Say, guys, look, I'm here as a professional.
Yeah.
You are a professional, right? More importantly, I'm qualified as you are qualified, right? Even better than that, I'm a spiritual being just like you are.
Sure.
Because unfortunately, security, it almost gets sidelined. It's like these knuckle-dragging thugs
Yes.
who are heathens and unbelievers. What are they doing as men of God?
Yeah.
Because on a Sunday morning when everybody's, is getting blessed, their hands are up, God is touching them, their tears rolling down, you just thinking...
Standing, looking around, because you're actually scanning for it.
Yeah, right. So, so God is walking in that room, everybody's hands are up, you like...
Exactly.
Right, you that guy.
Yeah.
So then one staff member is going to see you, they're like, wow, your hands are not up in service, then God is not touching you, you're not a Christian. But it's like, that's not my role to be blessed. That's not my role. I'm there now to be a blessing.
Yes.
Right? Yes. I'm now a minister.
Yes.
Now I'm now the shepherd.
Yes.
That's shepherding the shepherd of the house, which is my pastor.
Sure.
Now in this instance, the roles are flipped.
Yeah.
Now the pastor is the sheep, I'm the shepherd.
Yes.
Right now, I'm in my element of protecting him and the anointing on his life, while God is using him to bless the people. Sure. So I think the way to resolve the conflict, man, is first having honest conversations.
Yeah.
Right. Coming to the table as adults, understanding I'm not here to replace you.
Yeah.
You're not here to replace me.
Yeah.
Just like finance is there to do a certain job, facility management is there to do a certain job, logistics is there to do a certain job, the budgeting guys are there, the HR is there, the secretary is there, the PA is there. Guess what? So am I.
Sure.
I'm also here as a service provider.
Yeah.
And we working together to make sure that the system
runs well.
And that's it.
I think, it comes back to we have to get back to a place of just respecting each other's offices. This is my office. This is what I do, So while you out there and in the middle of a praise and worship session, your hands is up. I don't have those privileges. I want to.
Yeah.
I really want to. The anointing is here for all of us. The Spirit is catching everyone. But I have to contain myself within this moment. I have to contain myself. And I actually have to be aware. I have to be, the sheep, the sheepdog, that has to make sure that the wolf stays at bay. Unfortunately, that's my role. That's what I have to do. And we all have our own respective challenges.
Yeah.
These are some of mine. But I think that's why, for me, I decided that I want to start up this for these honest conversations. And I think a lot of it is because most people just don't understand what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this is so important, so that people can understand. Because often more so, people won't respect what they don't know.
Yeah.
So I think so for me, one of the main goals here is that people need to start getting an understanding of what does it actually take to do security properly. I'm not talking about just the goons with guns. I'm talking about actually doing security properly. Do you know that before we take your pastor to a venue, that we actually have to go there ahead of time, and we have to do something called the advance work? You don't see those things. You understand? You don't see how we have to go to places ahead of time. We have to walk through. We have to draw up plans. We have to sit. If you go home, we also go home, but we're sitting and working at home to do planning for whatever trip he's about to go to. Yeah. So there's so much that goes on behind the scenes of what we do. What you get to see us do is stand around. That's your perception of security. These guys go to gym, they carry palms, and they stand around. You know what I'm saying? And yet that for us is like the least of what we do. When we're there, yes, we're scanning for threats. We have to now do the physical side of the security. But there's so much that goes into it, There's so much preparation. There's so much planning. There's so much that we have to do just from a soft skills point of view, from a hard skills point of view. You do your job, you go to work, you do your job, you get paid, you leave. We actually have to make time to go to the gym, to be physically capable of doing the job. Should the need arises for us to deploy that sort of skill, we have to then deploy that skill. At the same time, we also have to be able to switch hats to be that friendly person. When an elderly person comes and asks you for directions or asks you for help, she wants to know where the resource center is, she wants to know, you have to be humble, you have to be sweet, you have to be sensitive. If a lady comes in, she's looking for the pastor, she's got tears in her eyes, you have to be able to be that first responder from a comfort point of view. Try her to settle down. Now you have to navigate. Is there an usher close by who can take care of this? Is there someone from the pastoral team around who can deal with this? So again, you're just seeing guys again standing around. You're just seeing guys maybe carrying firearms, and you're like, oh my, they are such a waste on the budget, but there is so much more than what meets the eye of what the ordinary person sees.
I think sorry, I love what you said. It's that mutual respect. I think for us to really understand, well, firstly, for us to have an interest in what the other person does first. Right? And then you can have conversations.
Sure.
So, because to the PA, I mean, I've got to go be like, so what exactly do you do? Hopefully they will ask me the same thing. Then I can give them enough nuggets so that they understand that when I ask, for the pastor's diary, it's for me to do my work.
100%. And I think that also there has to be like a clear understanding of, what, this person is here and they're here with the greatest of intentions. This person is here and they're here to add value. If something happened to...
And this person actually loves my pastor as much as me.
This person loves my pastor as much as I do. In fact, if there's someone in this auditorium that will literally take a bullet for you, it's him. So why don't we then, in that setting, why don't we then go, you know what? Maybe we do need to treat this person with a little bit more respect. Maybe we do need to, honor this person's office with a little more, respect, integrity, then just, it's him again. He's standing around. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a certain level where you have to take a step back and you have to go, listen, this dude is here with great intentions. The reality is, I was watching a video the other day, and a security specialist says, how much can I pay you to take a bullet for me? And that's got me thinking. I was sitting there, I'm going, the reality is, like, how much can I pay you to take a bullet for me? So even when we start speaking about pricing, when it's time for us to go through budgets, and when a security company comes in and they do a risk assessment and now they need to give you a proposal, when you're sitting at this, when you're sitting in front of this budget, you're looking at this and you're going, man, this is ridiculous. But it's because they don't know and understand the value that's actually added to that. And I think that's why this is so important, so that we can speak about the value, so that we can educate, the person that's trying to procure for such a service. And they're looking at this and they're going, man, security is pretty much the most expensive, thing on the budget, or at least one of them. But then you think about it, how much do you spend on licenses for IT departments? How much do you spend on equipment, camera equipment?
There's that in a church, there's always one camera.
Dude.
Were you like, if I could actually sit with the finance person and say, look, can we not get one that's slightly cheaper and take half of the money and put security measures in place?
Of course. But then again, the person, the head of media, feels that way about security. They're like, listen, hold up. I know a couple of guys at the gym that could come and stand around here and that could do that. But the reality is, it comes down to value. And I don't think that people understand the value. But you can't also blame them because they don't know what they don't know.
I think that value and respect is really where the conversation has to start.
Sure.
I think showing that value, respecting. But I think also from our side, I think even when we come in to humbly come in, right? Knowing that it's a new environment, it's new for the people as well. I think let our entrance also be more subtle.
Very subtle.
And I think as security professionals, let us take the lead and say, look, I will go and introduce myself. I will explain to these people what I do. So that maybe by the time it's out there, stuff is on my side. And that's exactly what I want. You know, the painful thing about social media now is anyone with a camera, both from a protector and from a client side, can just flash, phone on. Suddenly people are taking videos and everybody thinks this is security.
Yes.
Right? And we've seen, some videos where you just like, as a professional, a trained, qualified professional, just like, this is actually a problem. Right? Because unfortunately, some celebrities and captains of industries will use look-alike security for the sake to show that they've got security and therefore show that they are the it in the business, right? But this is one thing I'll say. The bad guys are not uneducated, knuckle-dragging,
no, not at all.
Right?
Not at all.
An instructor of mine, I remember, he said in training, he said, I don't know how many bad guys I've trained. I said, whoa, what do you mean? He says, because bad guys come to training like good guys.
Definitely.
But the bad guys use the training for evil, while the good guys use it for good.
Yes.
So if I'm a trained bad guy, I can spot fake security from a mile away. And I'll be like, this is laughable.
Yes.
Right? I've always been the good guy. But I've seen teams rolling. I'm just like, this is painful
to watch.
It's a joke. It's sad, and I feel sorry for the client.
That's actually paying for this.
That's paying.
That's paying for this.
Right. Because
one of the things that's terrible about our industry is that we get judged harshly by how we move. By how a unit moves together. I mean, if it takes such a lot of work to get a unit to move gracefully. But again, I think with this, it's a matter of competence and compliance. There's a lot of guys that comes into the industry and this is what they want to do. But I think for the person who's procuring, for this type of service, it's a matter of understanding competence, compliance. Is this person competent to do this? Is this person compliant to do this? And I think that's a big thing. I mean, the dangers regarding having security with you if you really have a threat. I'm not speaking about the person that just wants to roll up to an event, and have, a show put on. I'm speaking about the person that actually has a real a need. They've got a real situation going on. There's an actual threat in their lives. And you've got the wrong people with you. That's not trained. Listen, I mean, we've seen it. We've seen like real industry leaders, get taken out because they didn't have the correct security personnel with them. Now, again, whose decision is it to make sure that this person has the correct, security? Educate yourself on what needs to be done. What does this person need to bring to the table? What sort of competence must they have? What sort of compliance exactly? And then the soft skills and the hard skills element of it. The soft skills for in your environment, what this person needs to kind of move like, but also the hard skills for that this person should be able to deploy if something happens. Can this person drive? You don't just give a person a fast vehicle and ask this person to get you from point A to point B, not under a real threat level. Again, you're giving this person the permission to just protect you and your family, and this person comes and this person is carrying a firearm. When last has this person been to the range? Can this person actually deal with this sort of threat level under pressure? Do they crack? There's so many variables that goes into it.
The difficult thing is getting the right person for the job, right? And I think the only way for you to see real from fake is to test it, man.
Sure.
There is no other way, right? And I think
speak to people. Reach out to people that has decent security.
Like you've got security, and a lot of this is a trust issue.
Yes.
Reach out to people. Okay, I see you've got security. How did you get this? Where did you get them from? Right? What measures did you use?
Yes.
And unfortunately for most clients, it is going to be a trial and error for 1 or 2 times.
Yes.
Because sometimes, paper will the person will go to great academies, but sometimes you just don't click.
Yes.
You just don't like being around this person. And there's nothing wrong with it. They are competent, they are good, but you are just not clicking.
The other side is also it's daunting for any person to have to understand that we now have to allow these people into our spaces.
Yeah.
These people now have to come into our homes. These people now have to drive our cars. These people are going to be hearing our arguments. These people are going to pretty much know all of our business. They have to be around our kids. So there's so much that goes into making the decision. But unfortunately, we also find certain people that don't make the decision, even though they know they're at a level that they need it.
That's it.
However, they're more worried about what their cousin is going to think. They're more worried about what their friend is going to think. They're more worried about what the neighbor is going to think. So they end up not taking security for those reasons. And then when something harmful happens to them and their families, they get abducted, money gets taken from them, they get just absolutely wiped out. They deal with the trauma. They sitting with the lashbacks of all of that comes with that. And their families and their friends are just like, oh no, so sorry, oh no, you know.
And those you said problem, you know, with the problem. Right? So, but I think for us, man, the camera has really become an enemy, I think, of what we do. And it's up to us, I think, once again, is the industry that when you see that the camera is there, right, it's a thin line. You know, just do your job, man. Just do your job. Right? Just be a professional, do your job. At least let the camera capture you doing something that's worth capturing. That's camera worthy. That when it goes out there, it's like, hey, this looks different from that. Right? Compared to just other bunch of clients. I mean, the camera unfortunately has also captured professionals doing things that they shouldn't be doing, right? And that goes further than the camera that captures the protectors doing their job gracefully, right? So I think for us as protectors, we just got to make sure that, man, we always behave as if there's a camera watching. I mean, that's how I live my life when I'm at work, man. Right? I always
on and off work, actually.
Yeah, most of the time at work. Because I've been off work, hey, that's me, right? But it's my client, it's different. Kind of think, okay, there's always a camera watching. And let it rather capture something that's camera worthy. And that even if it goes out there, it's a professional image that's going out. And that's the way we can use the camera, I guess, to our advantage. And then we met. Oh God, wait. So then the church security thing started.
Yes.
I was big on Facebook one day. I'm like, let me just throw Facebook. I want to do these things. And you were one of the two people that brought up.
Yes.
On
and the guy from States.
Yeah, the three of us. Yeah.
There was three of us.
No, three of us. It was myself, you at Government States, and another guy from a church in Southern Joburg.
Yes. That's
and we ended up just talking about church security for like an hour. Four guys who have never met. And the first time we met was on that phone call. And then we're like, hey, if you're ever in Joburg, let's link up, and the rest was history.
And the rest was history.
So that's
2 years ago right now, actually. I mean, it's about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while now. So that's kind of like my short background. I think just limiting it to church security and us. And man, what an amazing journey it's been.
It's been an incredible journey.
And here we are.
I think in our industry, particularly in South Africa, we don't particularly like to talk about our industry. I think you and I, we spent countless of hours, chatting about this. I mean, over the years of our relationship. And this is always one of those things that comes up, is that we never share anything about our industry. Our industry is such a closed, knitted relationship. People don't particularly know anything about our industry, but that's because us that's on the inside don't share anything. I mean, when I came up in the industry, we still used to call ourselves bodyguards back in the day. Well, the industry terms were still bodyguards back in the day. And a bodyguard would never tell you that he's a bodyguard.
Oh, no. And it's crazy that you say that, because I remember at the gym where I used to go to in Durban, man, I used to see these guys. I'm like, these guys just look cool. Right? And I'm like, what do you guys do? It was like, I'm like, what am I going to do with it? It's not like I'm going to, find out who you are and go like kill your client or something like that, right? So, but I think it's important that we start speaking about it more. I mean, I remember the one time I got into this group on Facebook, right? I even remember, oh gosh, I'm just getting memories, right? So, and I got into this on the group. I just, started being vocal, right? People are like, oh, who the heck is this exposing us? I'm like, I'm exposing nobody. People want to know what the industry is about, just like every industry. Lawyers are not underground about what they do. Doctors are not it's a service, right? And people need to know about the service so we can attract fresh talent into the industry.
Yeah.
But also to the clients, the people you're offering the service to, can also have an understanding of what exactly it is that we do and how we do it.
Definitely. I think this is an amazing opportunity. For me, I look at this as a reset.
Yeah.
And if I can, I'd say the reset would be the integrity of the industry has been stripped down quite a bit. So I think with educating, the general public on what the industry does, what we do, what it takes to do what we do, I think that would be a massive eye-opener for a lot of people, particularly first-time buyers within the security industry.
Yeah.
I think also not just from a church security point of view, but just from a security in general, with all the kidnappings, extortions, etc., that's currently busy happening. I think there is a much, much, much higher demand for people, and a much bigger interest for people now to start purchasing private security, close protection, But again, how does people go about procuring for something like that? Because it's not something that first-time buyers are. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You just go online. Who comes there? Who does that? You know what I'm saying?
How do you vet that?
How do you vet for something like that? Because there's competence, there's compliance, you understand? Can a guy do what he says he's going to do? Or is it literally just, I think something you and I speak on a lot, is it just a big guy, goes to the gym, carries a firearm, and now he's your bodyguard? You know what I'm saying?
No, because how my mind works, right? So whenever you speak about something, if I've got a reference point to it, I see it.
Definitely.
And so my mind just starts going, because I know that. And I've got like specifics. I mean, I can judge specific moments like in my life, in my history or whatever, where you say that, I can literally go to a place, I can see someone that's exactly that.
Yeah.
Right? So where it becomes an appearance, but is the appearance and reality the same thing?
Yeah.
Right. But I think that's a topic for that's a topic for another.
That's a whole different topic, and definitely something we'll have the next time I have you on the podcast,
Yeah.
There's our next topic right there. There's our next topic.
Topic right there.
Splendid. Okay. So just to give you a little bit of a background about myself, obviously just whenever I am looking to do anything, I don't just allow anyone to speak into my life, whether it's financial leadership, etc. I'm always vetting the person. So I think it's important to explain who I am so that the listener can determine for themselves whether I am qualified to speak on this matter or not. I've been in the security industry roughly about 15 years now. I came through the doors of the bouncing side of the industry. I physically got involved with church security exactly 13 years ago. That was in 2010. Yeah. It was crazy for me. It was epic because obviously I went for the interviews with the security company, etc. And the next best thing, I'm at a church. So again, I didn't understand anything. Again, it was very unfamiliar to me, why a church would need security, etc. Obviously, once I started really getting into it, I started understanding, the dynamics of it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, that's 13 years with church security and 10 years exactly with specific close protection. And again, I've always had a love for bodyguarding, particularly.
Yeah.
Again, everything I saw on the movies, etc., was like very appealing to me, but I've always felt like I had a call on my life. I think just a little bit of history going way back before that for me was just I was quite bullied as a kid. I know many people don't believe that, but I was quite bullied as a kid. And the day that I discovered that I've actually got certain abilities, to defend myself and others, I almost felt like that was everything that happened in the past was like God's way of preparing me for this, for this season of my life, where I could understand, I could have compassion for what a person feels, when they are being bullied, whether it's a business person, that's being bullied by other people in the industry, and that's why they reach out to security to have security. I can honestly say that I've got compassion for that person. I know what that's about, So with the 13 years worth of experience that I've got within the church security space specifically, it breaks my heart to see everything that's happening right now. Churches are massively under attack. Churches are, we just witnessed quite a few things over the last few months, particularly the one where the guys went into the church. It was a live stream and the pastor getting robbed, etc. The church, I mean, the kids was locked up, one side.
Yeah.
Just a few weeks ago, we had another pastor in a conference being shot and killed, and there's so much of this that goes around. I mean, guys just going into churches, throwing statues around, guys just going into, churches causing trouble, etc. But what could be done? What should be done? Whose responsibility is it to make sure those things are done, Because what do we do regarding saying we have to come to church?
Yeah.
Our wives, our children, etc.
Yeah.
And yet they're not safe there.
Yeah. Look, I mean, church security, let me start it like this. The issues that I think we see now on social media are not new. Right? But it's just that now, because of social media, it's quick for everybody to get it now. Something can happen right now. It will be literally, it can be across the world in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? I remember there's an instructor of mine who used to say, you are 30 seconds away from being famous.
Yeah.
So whatever you do, always assume there's a camera that's watching you, because in 30 seconds, you can be everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So the incidents or accidents that we're seeing, especially in South Africa, are not new, but social media has just really made it more a reality for people.
Yeah.
And because of the way that the institution and the organizations are, it's something that's always been, kind of hidden under.
Yes.
Let's keep the image of the church perfect. Let's not report even to law enforcement that this happened. Hey, if there's any people that are affected, let's bring them into the church. Let's counsel them. Let's find a way to just really keep this hush-hush, so the church presents a perfect image, right? Part of my career, a big part of my church career actually was overseas, right? I was in the US for 2 years. And what I discovered there is, man, it's hectic stuff that happens to churches in America. I think about 2-3 years ago, a guy walks into a church with a rifle. I think he shoots about 15 people. Imagine it's in a church. He shoots 15 people. And luckily, somebody there, was armed and they took care of that, right? So this is nothing new. Churches burn down. Arson cases, man. I mean, kidnappings, things that unfortunately, they happen in churches, right? So, but to say whose responsibility, it's simple, right? The shepherd, right? Congregant members, those are the sheep, right? Somebody's responsible for them. So I fully believe, man, it's the responsibility of the pastor, the responsibility of the elders, the leadership, the board members. I mean, churches not just got board members. It's a responsibility of those people to ensure that everybody that steps, into those premises feels safe, is protected, and can really enjoy the worship experience without thinking, hey, man, what if it goes down today? What if this is a day, right? And it's unfortunate, man, that we live in times when people have to think about that.
Sure.
Right? I was telling a colleague of mine, I think about 3 weeks ago, I was just away for work, and I met a guy at the gym, and he invites me to church, right? And I'm telling a friend of mine, I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to go to the church. He's like, why? I'm like, I don't know what security they have. I'm like, I don't know things that I should be thinking about. I'm thinking, I've never been to a church. What security do they have? Where am I going to sit? Who do I talk to? It's like, I'm not even lying to you, that was one of the first things I thought of.
Wow.
Right? Which is unfortunate. Maybe it is kind of like my security mindset, but the fact that I got to think of a church in that way now, where it's located, what type of neighborhood it is, right? But to be sure, man, it's a responsibility, I think, of those who are responsible for everything else.
Sure.
I think they should be, I think, responsible for that. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Two things that you said. One, the gentleman that, can we call him a gentleman? The guy that rolled up in the church, rifle, took down 15 people.
Yeah.
Who was inside there that dealt with the problem? So I know for a lot of people, firearms are a massive problem, etc.
Yeah.
But firearms are not the problem. Bad people is the problem. I think,
exactly.
I think the only defense we have against evil men are good men who are skilled at violence.
100%. Yeah.
You know, so that's for me. That's always something that sticks out. You know, now again, how do you go about entrusting, you know, just any person to come into your church with a firearm? Is that allowed? Isn't that allowed? You know, every church has to make that call for themselves. You know, we have to look at the size of the church. We have to look at the dynamics of the church. But I think sometimes we may look at churches and we may look at a mega church being able to can afford security. And then we may look at a smaller type church somewhere in the woods, somewhere, you know, down in the location or something. But what can they do? I think on all levels, there is something that can be done. You know? I think for the bigger church that can afford security, definitely having a decent security system is in place. Maybe more so because you may be more under attack. You know, you get seen as, listen here, you're worth more. The church is worth more. The pastor is worth more. You know, if we were to kidnap the man, you know, we could get more. It's not necessarily that, but we could get more. Versus the smaller church, you know, it may be, listen, we'll get away here with, you know, some of the collection, cell phones, jewelry, maybe 1 or 2 laptops, you know, a Mac or 2, etc. But on every level, there has to be some sort of structure.
100%. Right. So, look, the way I think I like to see it and describe it is size does matter, of course, right? But the pattern or the formula is the same, right? So, because you really got to look at it as your concentric rings of protection. I mean, that's the terminology that we use. So basically, if this is the church here in the middle, right? So there got to be layers of security from the moment you enter into that parking lot or through that fence, right? Through that hallway of some sort, maybe the little holding area, and into the actual auditorium itself, right? Because remember, the man that ends up in the building, robbing the church, whatever, that's the last step of it, right? Like in the Texas story that you just spoke about, the guy that ended up taking out the bad guy, that's the last thing that you want, because it's already too late, right? So first things first is you got to understand that from the parking lot, right? What measures do we have in place? Firstly, to identify the bad guy, right? So we've got to be able to say, okay, so here are 10 people that are walking into the church, or think, okay, what does a typical person who walks into a church on a Sunday morning when it's sunny look like? You know, how are they dressed? How are they walking? What's their attitude? Right? And that's where I think I always advise churches, that's when you use your soft skills, your ushers, that's where you're using your car park attendants. So whether you just got 20 people or 20,000 people, there's somebody in the modern church that's meeting people in the car park, hey, welcome to church. That first contact right there, that's your first opportunity to get a feel of those people. Okay, is this person smiling back when I greet them? You know, are they kind of grumpy and sad? You know, do they look like they've got problems? You know, like let me get a feel of this person, right? And then to that, most churches have got ushers on the door that are welcoming people. Once again, that's another contact point with the person, right? And then once they're inside, it's a different story. So I think the first thing first is being able to identify the bad guy. How do you identify the potential perpetrator of whatever it could be? In this instance, maybe let's say it's a shooting, or it's a mugging, or it's a potential kidnapping, or whatever it is. So the first step for me, I say, is identifying the bad guy. Because when people think security, they're thinking guns, big guys. And no, it's not that, right? It's being able to see the threat in advance, and you put measures in place to mitigate the threat. In our instances, it's nice people, it's ushers. You know, but it's ushers that have not been trained or got that eye to see, hey, something's out of place. And now who do I report that to? And what does that person do about it? So I think it's just really about identifying the potential problem first. Right? And then as a ministry, then you have got measures in place that say, okay, then how do we handle certain issues? So if we see maybe somebody that's disgruntled, or somebody that looks upset, somebody that looks hurt or whatever, because remember, the church is there to attract the bad guy. Of course. Right? We want the bad guys to come to church, but when he gets there, we want it to come on our terms. You know, that it must be a controlled environment, because church is a place for healing, right? And the people who do all of these hideous crimes are broken people. Right? People who come into churches and want to rob people are broken people. We want them to come to the church, of course, that's where they want to get help. But we want them to come in an environment and a setup that's controlled from a security perspective, that they do not become harmful in the very place where they're coming for help. So it's about mitigating, it's about awareness, look for what stands out, and then have measures in place to kind of take care of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think a big thing would be is to actually prioritize for these welcome teams, ushering teams, etc., to actually have some sort of formal training with a security professional to help them identify, to help them understand what it is that they're looking for, what they need to do about it, and have some sort of structure in place regarding once the threat is identified, okay, cool, who do we report it to, and then who's actually equipped and competent to deal with that, because that's a whole other ball game right there. What would you say? How can people go about reaching out to someone that can come in and helping them?
Look, I mean, training is very important, right? Because even in security, it's not for everybody, right? Even in the church security, man, I know this sounds so not right, but it's not for everybody.
Sure.
Right? You could be a great usher, good, but it does not mean you're a good security person.
Sure.
Right? So the important thing is getting that balance between, yes, the ushers are there and they do a magnificent job. I come from the church. I was an usher for many years, right? So I understand that. But now there's a component of it that it's not an ushering problem, it's a security problem. So now you've got to find that blend between being the usher and not being security. Right. So, and a simple setup, churches would be surprised to actually find out that even in a congregation maybe of 20 people, there could be 1 or 2 people who actually have formal security training.
Yes.
Maybe guys who are even still active in the industry, right? Maybe some 1 or 2 law enforcement guys maybe who come to church that nobody even knows about.
Yes.
I laugh when I go to churches that you will see, signs on the entrance, it's a gun-free zone. I'm like, try telling that to the bad guy, right? Or I'm like, but who's even verifying that? Because I can tell you right now, I know mates of mine who love the Lord who go to church with guns. No one knows.
Yeah.
Even the pastor himself doesn't know. The head of ushers don't know. So a board is not going to stop a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
But that's going to take somebody that knows what they're doing. But in putting those teams together, right, it's about, I think, from the top. Firstly, there has to be an honest recognition from the men on top saying, we actually need this.
Yes.
Because without that happening, nothing's going to fly, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's unfortunate that we actually have to convince pastors that you need this. And now you must take measures in place, find in your church who's actually done this, who can do this, who's trained to do this, and man, you start on a small scale. It takes 1 or 2 people to get the ball rolling. I've worked with church security teams around the world. I've been I think I probably have been to more than 30, 40 different church venues around the world. So I've worked with many security teams, man, from the place where you get there and you just like, it feels like the president is here, to a place where you feel like they've never seen anything like that.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So
I actually know that you actually happened to work with a team that was like doing epic stuff. Flying literally more than the president at one point.
Yeah.
And I think that's that's one of the reasons that I always gravitate towards you. And I think that's pretty much what's built up our relationship. Is the fact that you've got this vast experiences. The fact that you've got these vast experiences within the industry, and you come with the type of knowledge that is not just localized at your church, in your community. It's literally, guys, this is me. This is where I grew up. This is what I've seen. This is how I got into the industry, because you were an usher. And then you saw the security type situation. You wanted to do that. You got involved with that, and that's your journey. But from there, you went on to traveling extensively. You lived in the States for a long time to do this. And when you knew that this was you, this is what you wanted to do, you actually went and you did the training. You've got some really great training there. He's a Ronan graduate, by the way. So if anything, he's a Ronan graduate, by the way. I think that So for those who don't know, Ronan in our industry is like the Harvard of is like the Harvard of the close protection world. If you were gonna study, man, if you went to Ronan, you went to Harvard. So I think all of that being said, it's a man that carries the church in his heart. He loves the Lord. He loves the church. But he's also got pretty much the best training that supports that. And therefore, he's sitting here today. I mean, I couldn't think of anyone else that was more fitting, to have this discussion with. Truly a man that firstly loves the Lord, secondly, absolutely loves church, but that shares such an amazing passion for the industry, and that just does everything with excellence. He's just a man of real excellence. He's just a man of real character. And I mean, we just share hours and hours on the phone. I mean, he travels a lot. But whenever we get to, I mean, there's hardly a week that goes by without us chatting. So I know for a fact, how much this has hurt him, the season that we find ourselves in. I know how burdened he was by it, and I was quite burdened by it myself. Again, with him being in the church industry for 13 years, it hurts me. It genuinely hurts me to think that people can just walk in to a church and just, kill the man of God
and do whatever they want.
Literally do whatever they want.
But sorry, Eddie, but it's still the responsibility of the church to do something.
Sure.
Right. I remember there was something that I think an incident that happened recently, right? And this was on the news, like national news, and I made a comment on it, well, I mean, why didn't churches do this, And I mean, I got a bit of flack, well, how can you say that? Churches don't have money. I'm like, no, it's not a money issue. It's not a money issue. It's a structure issue, right? Because if you walk into a place, you can just see, okay, I mean, these people are serious about what they do.
Sure.
Right? And automatically, as the bad guy, you're like, oh, okay, the structure here, let me not even bother.
Sure.
Right? And the most unfortunate thing is when people say, well, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. I'm like, this has got nothing to do with God. It's not a God issue.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I love the Lord, man. As a church, I mean, I love the Lord and I love the church, because those are two different things. Story for another day, right? I love both. But security in the church is not a God issue.
Yeah.
It's a people issue.
Yeah.
Because we people need to do something about it.
Sure.
Right. It's like saying, well, I'm not going to lock my car. I'm going to leave my laptops lying around and my phone in my car. And I'm going to, ask Michael, the archangel, to have a hedge of fire around my car. It's pathetic.
Exactly.
Right. So you do something about it, right? When you're in the mall with your kids that you love so much, you don't just let them.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with the church. Like, the church needs to get its head out of the sand.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to solve the problem. People need to take responsibility. And the fact that people don't feel safe in church is actually, it's embarrassing to say the least, right?
I think at some point, at what point do we go back to saying, you know what? Maybe even the men of the house, it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility as the men of the house to protect our women and children.
Yeah.
If the church cannot afford security, the men of the house, the men in the community, those carrying firearms, I think they need to come together and be like, listen here, we're going to be the barrier between the wolf and the sheep.
It's not going to happen. I'm going to say that, because men are just going to be like, stuff it. Why must I even bother going there? My family is safe at home. Right. And it's sad. And you see that men, unfortunately, story for another day, but men don't go to church much anymore. Right. Which is just another burden on its own. But on this one, like, the church needs to stand up and take responsibility for it. Right. Because it's also about understanding what exactly are we protecting. Because it's not just the people there. Right. I mean, you're thinking on a bigger picture. Think about the image of the church.
Yes.
Right. You think about the assets in the church. You think about the kids.
Yeah.
in the church, right? I mean, I'll paint you a scenario. I mean, let's say there's a marital dispute between a family. Let's say husband and wife, maybe they've been to divorce court. The church knows nothing about it. Maybe they're staying in separate houses now. The church knows nothing about it. So let's say here's a scenario. I mean, mom comes to church, drops off the kid, and goes into the church. Dad comes, kid says, Dad, hey, Dad, I haven't seen you in 3 weeks. Hey, my baby. Dad takes the kid, smiles, everybody's happy, the kids are happy. The children's ministry people, they know their father, but they don't know what's going on at home, right? The mother comes, where's my kid? It's like, hold up, but your husband came, so my husband is divorced. Now, imagine the look.
I'm with you.
On the mother's face, where you've left your child in what is supposed to be one of the safest places you can be at the moment, and your child is gone. Instantly, there's a kidnapping case right there.
Right there.
So as a church, how do you explain that a kid has been kidnapped in church? So imagine the confidence that does now to the rest of the congregant members, right? Imagine that's now it's on the news. Kid gets kidnapped at this mega church in South Africa. So the church needs to understand that this is way bigger than just, it's not a financial thing. You know, you've got the image of the church, the image of institution of the church, but also the lives of the people that are involved there. I mean, I remember, oh my God, I don't even know if it's funny. I remember I worked in a church, and man, like in that area, you said cars used to get dropped. Imagine you go to church, you come out, your car is gone from the parking lot. Your car is gone in a church. And nobody's got to trace something to your car. I mean, explain that. Explain that, right?
And sometimes we'll want to bring it back down to, but we live in South Africa and this is what happens. Well, the reality is, I think that we still have a responsibility when we say, you know what, you have to come to this place of worship, you have to come to church. We'll provide some level of mindfulness regarding you and your assets, your children, your family, the lives, that you're bringing along with you. I can only but imagine a gentleman that's not going to church, but his wife and his kids are there, and something happens to his wife, and he gets called to come and fetch his child because something happened to the wife. The wife was, an innocent bystander in a shooting. That for me is always
bro. The one. For some reason, I keep on referencing the one in Texas. I don't know, it just stays in my mind. That one. Oh, man. Actually, so the pastor wasn't there, and he had a guest pastor, right? Yeah, you can say this one. He had a guest pastor, and my facts maybe might not be 1,000% correct, but I think that pastor came with his pregnant wife.
Wow.
And I think his wife got shot.
Oh.
So, I mean, how do you even put that into your mind that, you get invited somewhere to do what God has called you to do, and your pregnant wife gets shot?
Wow.
Right.
So for me, because obviously, I mean, as much as what I love security, I think my first love is always going to be close protection. I mean, you know this. I mean, I just absolutely love the side of close protection the most. So let's talk a little bit about that. And I mean, maybe let's just unpack that a little bit, getting guest speakers in, pastors, and what sort of structures should we be creating regarding that? For me, I always think about it this way. If you called some man from the States, some pastor from the States, to come and speak at your church, the reality is, if something was to happen with that man on your clock, I always think about the relationship between now the church that invited him versus the church that, he's leaving his church behind to come and speak at your church, and something happened to him. What does that do, with the relationship, what can we do? Because for me, this is where the close protection side comes in, follow homes from the airport. Who's driving? I like to think about it this way. Get a professional security driver that's actually trained to do that. with a church member,
Yeah.
you know, whether it's an usher, someone from pastoral, etc., who carries the heartbeat of the house, who understands the culture, who's the usher for that person, you know, that person's chaperone. But having that security professional, you know, there to actually, who's trained within that, I think for me, that's a brilliant system. What's your thoughts on this?
Look, it is. I just remembered something that you know, my ex-boss once said. He said to me, you know, remember that when it comes to church security, that you're not just protecting the physical side of it, especially the cross protection. He said this to me. He said, my boy, remember this. You are also protecting the anointing that's on that life of now, that specifically that man that has been called to deliver the message. Because remember, this is way bigger than just him, right? So if God has called somebody to come into your church to deliver a specific message for that week or for that season that maybe the church is pivoting into, and something happened that just takes him off, man, that whole thing is gone. Right? So you must understand that the protection element of it, it's not just the physical, right? Because now when it comes to the close protection, you're not just protecting the man, right? So if there's the man, but there's also now the man of God, and then there's the anointing that is upon that life, right? So, and now there's this transition. So let's say from home, let's say we're chilling at home, right? Now I'm protecting the man, right? But that is the transition space between going from home to service, where now, at some point, man, I don't know how to explain this, but at some point in that car, there's that, it's in my head, there's almost like that switch that happens, where maybe, let's say, you know, you're driving with the man of God to service, and there's that switch that happens, okay, now I'm with the man, but there's a moment where it transitions. By the time you go into the parking lot, you're like, okay, now I'm with the man of God. Where words are less, you tuned in, you focused. Now he's on the platform. Now the anointing hits the room. Now everything is different. I know it's going to be very weird for people who've never been in this space, right? But I've been in places where I've worked with amazing ministers where I would see a man change in front of me. It's the most beautiful and scariest thing at the same time, where I'm like, okay, what a privilege for me to do this. And I know that now, even in me doing the role now as the close protection officer, where I gotta now be so sensitive that now I'm no longer the hard protection guy that's there. Because now God is in this place. Like the anointing is here. So even I gotta tread carefully. I mean, I've had
Definitely.
And I've messed it up a few times where I've seen from stage where my boss looks at me and says, because he'll be preaching and he'll just see me, I'll be doing whatever I'm doing, you know, thinking, he's like, I'm like, okay, right? So there comes a sensitivity when it comes to doing now church security on a spiritual element, right? And that's why I say it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
Right? So you can be the hard security guy, but there's a moment where now there's a line where it's now, I mean, I know this, it's gonna divide some people when I say, okay, now we're stepping into the holy of holies of what we're doing, and now let's leave the sheep and the goats and the dirt and the nose on the outside. And some of us are good from the outside, but once you cross a certain line, man, I mean, I've been in services where I've been doing security, and God will speak into my life, right? So I'm just like, whoa, hold up, I'm just here for work. But I mean, that space where now God is here, where it's now impacting my life more than anything else. I'm still at work, right? And the most difficult thing I think with this role, man, is being there in the moment, doing your job, but still now realizing that God is here. And I mustn't infringe of that. I remember, you know, a boss of mine, he said at some point, he says, my boy, there's a point where now when I'm on that stage, I'm no longer your boss. You no longer work for me. I'm now a man being used by God. Don't refer, like, I mean, it's not don't refer to me a certain way, but there's a certain reverence that just happens, man, when you're in that space.
I can definitely relate to that. I think for me, it's always been this way. On a Saturday, I may be out with a different client, and we're rolling a 3-car convoy, looking after some businessmen, etc. And you know, we're rolling, and it's amazing. You get the person to and from home safely, and it's a day well done. But on a Sunday morning, I get to church. I carry a completely different spirit. I carry a completely different attitude. And I know a lot of great protectors. I know Jeeves. I know a lot of really, really great protectors. But they would suck within the church security environment. I've seen so many good guys come into the church space on team, and they wouldn't last long. Because firstly, you know, if you've got that spiritual battle happening inside of you, and you don't know how to discern that, you know, that's a story for another day.
No, you doomed, right? And that's when now, you know, I think church security. First things first, I say, man, you gotta be a born again Christian to do that. There has to be some sort of relationship between you and God that enables you to get into that space and for you to understand what's going on, right? Like there gotta be that conviction that, hey, I actually believe with my heart what this man is saying. 100%. Right? Because, you know, because it's and that's what makes church security different from working with other industries. Because it involves you personally. I mean, I've had opportunities to work on certain teams. And when I saw the spiritual climate of that, I was like, no, I'm against it, man. So it's good, but it's not for me, and I refer people to it.
So for me, I stepped away from just the industry altogether for about 4 or 5 years. And I actually went on to staff. And worked directly on staff for the church. And then obviously after that, then I stepped off and I then opened up AAB Security Consulting. But I think there's something that needed to take place, because even though I've been within the church security space for 13 years, again, something happened where it was, I've been in the industry, so I look at it this way. I was in the world, but I was, you know, doing church security as well. And for the first few years, I mean, church security was something that I did as part of being in the industry as a whole. And the reality is, there's something so unique about if you open up your heart, if you open up, you know, if the Lord can really break through, you know, that hardened heart of yours, you know, you start carrying the vision of the house. You start embracing the culture, you know, and I think for me, that's always something that I believe in. I know I'm a little overbearing when it comes to that, is that if I'm going to be building up a team for a church, it's so important for us to catch the heartbeat of the house. It's so important for us.
You have to, right? Because if you don't have the heartbeat of the house and your heart is not connected for you, it's just another Sunday. It's just another job. It's just another... You know, then that's where, when the going gets tough, you hear people saying, but I don't even get paid to do this. Oh, really? And you saying that you're an usher at the church and you're here to, you know, to do this, because some people, they see the glitz and glam of it. Right? Man, I remember, I think there was some conferences that we did, you know, a couple of years ago. Dude, I think it was about a one week conference. I mean, you would know this, because, I mean, you still do this quite often. Where, man, you find that by the time you get to like to day 2 or 3, you're like, the services are great, but I just want to sleep.
I'm broken.
Man, but you know, but you gotta rock up there, man. Do your job. I mean, you know, you gotta be kind to people, smile, you know, to people. You know, people who want, you know, can I see the pastor? And that's where now that sensitivity, right, of understanding that, look, there's people that want to see the pastor. It's yes, I mean, there are people, you know, but some people really want genuine help. Right? And that's when now we got to...
They just want to touch that garment.
And sometimes, you know, some people's faith, it's linked to certain to people. That's just how we are, right? Some people really believe, if the pastor prays for me, it's going to be good. You know, if I just have a word with the pastor and explain to him my problem, it's going to be good, right? And it has its merit. And that's when now, firstly, as security professionals, right? But also now as sensitive security professionals, we got to have that soft buffer of saying, okay, look, I mean, I understand from a spiritual perspective. Look, unfortunately, right now, he's tired. You know, he's tired. You know, he's worn out. But look, let me see what I can do, right? And sometimes you don't know that you could be that person, man, that really causes that breakthrough, because you've got that heart of understanding. So when you're in our role, man, you've got to understand both sides of it.
Have to.
Right? You've got to understand the broken person side that's saying, man, I came to church, I need help. But then you've got to understand the pastor side. It's just like, he's just a human being.
Sure.
And sometimes we've got to be the bad guy for him.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know how many punches I've taken to be like, you can't see him right now. He's tired. And he's like, Sandile, I can't see people. I'm tired. I'm worn out. But there are instances, I'll be honest, where I've been like, look, he can't help you right now, but I'm going to trust you.
Yes.
Don't break my trust. I mean, and I've told people, okay, look, from here, we are parked at the back. Go wait by that corner. I'm going to find you.
And the industry would hate you for that, though.
Right. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to find a way for him to walk past you. If I can, I'm going to brief him that, hey, sir, you're probably going to hate me. I told somebody to just come.
Yes.
Right? And those 3-4 seconds, man, I've seen people's lives change.
Yes.
I could have done my hard security job. No, I can't do this, But I felt the person's heart.
Yes.
I felt the desperation for help.
Yes.
Has it worked all the time? No, it hasn't. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. Oh my God.
We love your stories.
I'll tell you a quick story. So same scenario, different part of the world, right? Well, walk out with my client, amazing meeting. It was an evening. I remember it was an evening service, and the client, is like, yeah, man, it's chill. Let's just go, like 2 of us. It's fine. It's nothing hectic. So great service. And as we got out the parking lot, there was a guy standing behind the car. It was like a garage door opened. So there's a guy standing outside as the car was going to come out, right? And I see this guy, and he's like, hey, man, can I speak to your boss? I'm like, unfortunately not, man. He's a bit busy. And then my boss is like, no, it's fine. Sandile, it's fine. Like, stop this thing. I'm like, oh, okay, so cool.
Yeah.
So he goes there, and then this guy says something to my boss. Then my boss comes in and he's like, so like in the our language, it's like, what did this person mean by saying a specific phrase, right? And so basically, what this person was saying is, how people have got, I think it's called not a guest list, a bucket list.
Yes.
One day I want to do this,
sure.
Right? So my client at that time was on this guy's bucket list. He just said, look, one day I would like to meet so-and-so.
Wow.
And he just so happened to be in that city. And he gets that contact, but my client is like that guy just felt weird. I'm like, what do you mean? So he's like, it just didn't. I'm like, no, it's going to be okay. Then he said, I'm on his bucket list. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? And then that's where I was like, okay, now let me play dumb.
Yeah.
Right? Because one of the things I think that we do, especially I do, to protect the anointing, I know this sounds bad and it's unchristian, is I don't tell the whole truth.
Yeah.
Because I know that at that time when my boss, my pastor is coming from that high of the anointing, the truth will just break everything in a piece. And I don't want that.
Kind of like filtering.
Oh, yeah. I want to give him a gradual, So when they ask me, what does this thing mean? I'm like, I'm not going to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
So I dumped it down. No, it was like, oh, it's really nothing. I'm like, yeah, it's really nothing. But in my mind, I know that's something. I mean, if somebody says you are on my bucket list, you are a big deal to the person, right? So we got out the parking lot, we're driving, it's clear, the road is clear. And I see these lights behind me. I'm thinking, this cannot be what I think it is, right? So I speed up. So this is me, I'm speeding up, but I can see they're just maintaining the same speed, right? Then I slow down drastically to such an extent that if they maintain the same speed, they should go past me.
Yeah.
But they don't. So they kind of slow down just enough to be side by me. I'm like, sir, he's like, what? Like, I think we've been followed. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I think we've been followed. He's like, why do you say that? I'm like, yeah, there's cars. And then I asked him, what do you think I should do? Right? Because also, especially in a church environment, and just in general security, the clients that we work for are captains of industries in what you do. So that's where I had to be sensitive and like, look, my security mind can just take over, like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do this.
Yes.
Then me and him are going to fight, which is another problem.
Yes.
I'm like, sir, what do you suggest we do? I know I've got ideas. It's like, oh, well, I'm tired. Look, what do you want to do? I'm like, okay, I'll go, I'll do ABC. If that doesn't work, I'm going to go past a police station, swing by, It's like, no, I don't have time for this. Do something else, but I want to go home. Wow. Right. So did a couple of things, I speed up, kind of left the guy, in the shadows.
Deployed that hard skill.
Oh, yeah, man. I was like, sorry now. Before that, I just watched Man on Fire. Yeah, exactly. I'm like Man on Fire moment. I'm like, I've lived for this for 3 years. Man, so I hit that car, right? Hit that car, go through. I remember it was like a little ditch. So we had quite a good powered engine car. So I hit that valley and went up, and I could see the guy kind of like struggling.
Yeah.
So we get to the top. It's almost like just like a hill. Yeah. So when we're at the top dipping, you can't see us. Mm-hmm. So we kind of dip, and then we dipped straight into like the neighborhood. Yeah. There was kind of boomed gate, told security, hey man, if somebody comes in, deny. So go to the house, take the client in, put him in the house, and we just kind of okay, but what's going to happen now? About 30 seconds, maybe not, maybe 2 minutes later, the gate calls. Like, hey, there was somebody here at the gate asking, if you live there. And then the guys, like, no, of course I denied everything, whatever. And at that moment, I think my client should realize I know what I'm doing.
Sure.
Right? So he calls me. He's like, hey, kiddo. I'm like, yes. So he's like, I guess you were right. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, the guy that you said was following us, he really was following us. I'm like, oh, what do you mean? What happened? So I'm just acting like, yeah. Well, the guy at the gate called me, asking, etc. I'm like, okay, so that's cool. Then he calls somebody else, right? And he's like, hey, somebody followed us, tonight, wow. And Sandile was able to see the guy 1, 2, 3, 4, wow. 5, and that was that, right? So the threats in what we do are always there, man.
Always.
Especially in the church element, because pastors, people do see pastors on two extremes nowadays, right?
Sure.
There's, some pastors have really taken the piss out of it. Yeah. And have screwed people over, excuse my language, and people just generally hate them.
Yeah.
They hate the institution of the church, and they really want to wipe them out.
Yeah.
Right? And then in the other instance, there is the adoration part.
Yes.
Where, man, if I could just be next to Pastor so-and-so,
yes.
if I could just take a picture with Pastor so-and-so, yes. Right? And so as church security members, we've got the responsibility to kind of pick out, okay, which is better.
Yeah.
Right? And how do we play that safe buffer between the general public and the image of both the pastor and the church? Because church security is the institution as a whole. It's the people that are there, but then there's still the person that God has trusted to run that church. That's one person, right? And remember, if something happens to that person, that whole thing is gone. That's just the reality of it. We are responsible to protect that.
What I love there is it's literally painting a clear picture of building the bridge between church and close protection.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of pastors, they may not be comfortable with having security, because they don't want to be seen as that sort of pastors. But the reality is, it's maybe not even about you at this moment. No. You need to consult with a security professional. Yeah. And that person actually needs to do a risk analysis on you and go like, listen, you may not want a full team around you, and look,
and you don't need to.
You don't need to.
You don't need to, right?
But having that layer there is vitally important. I mean, I'm looking right now at touching on what you just said. This guy may have been screwed over by a different pastor, where he was told that if he brings whatever in, it's going to be multiplied 100-fold. Listen, man, this brother went and sold his car because, he believed that,
Who knows the reason?
Exactly,
Yeah.
But now he's got it in for all pastors. His life went out of control, downward spiral. He lost everything based on promises that he heard in church. Now he's just got it in for all pastors.
Yes.
He may go on a rampage, to just stake out pastors.
Yeah.
What do we do to stop that? Because that's one thing that could go wrong. The other side is, now with all of these kidnappings and extortions, at what point are criminals going to start going, hey, listen here, Well, churches are soft targets. Let's start extorting churches.
Yeah.
Have you got anything in place to deal with that?
Yeah.
Or are you kind of going to, when it happens, now call in someone to try and deal with that mess?
Look, I'll tell you right now, when it happens, it's too late.
It's too late.
Because chances are, in your normal size church, if something like that happens, you never recover.
You don't recover.
You will never recover, because the trauma that your people are going to go through, the image that is going to, it's almost impossible for you to recover. And even if you do, it won't be as it was before.
Yes.
Because it's just, it hurts that, you know, people don't want to come to church and remember, this is where I lost, this is where my father was shot dead. You don't want that, right? So, but I believe every church can do something, man. And it starts off small, right? And that's where I think what we do and what we're about, I think is valuable, you know, in training churches, in training ushering groups, in training, you know, it's not a size issue. Once again, it's not a money issue. It's a matter of, do you want to do something? If your heart says yes, then automatically that's a start. Because let me just say, I don't care. Because the problem is, you find that sometimes the pastor at the top wants it.
Yes.
But the problem is this middle people that see our service as if we are taking over their job.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. So what you find is, so you've got the pastor at the top, maybe who kind of realizes, wait, I actually do need this thing.
Yes.
Right? But then they'll consult with, you know, middle management.
Yes.
And they're like, oh no, you know, you don't need that. People are gonna think that you're better than them. You know, and then, but the guy's like, no, but I understand I need the service, right? Because unfortunately, because of the close proximity that you have to the person right at the top. Now, certain maybe departmental managers feel threatened about that, but it's like, no, I'm just here to do my job.
I'm just here to fulfill my purpose.
Right. But now the mistake also now that churches have made, I've seen, you know, in my travels, is you find that you find the security team or person reports to somebody who does not understand security.
Yeah.
Right. I remember there's a client I worked with, and one of the first things I said to him, I said, sir, I'm here. First things, I'm not gonna allow you to drive yourself. He's like, no. He's like, no, I'm good. I'm like, nah, come on, let's give it one try.
Yes.
I was like, no, I'm good. I mean, and he was young. He was like he was young, man. He was fit. He was an athlete and was a pastor.
Wow.
Right. So he was very, very independent. So one day, so I remember we used to do like different campuses. He used to go to different campuses, maybe like 3 campuses in one Sunday. So he'd preach, get in the car, drive somewhere else, preach, get in the car, then go home. Right. So the one day, I just went to the green room. I'm like, oh, so I saw, you know, in the diary saying from here you go to the next campus. It says, yeah. I said, okay, cool. Where are your car keys? He's like, what? I'm like, I'm going with you today. He's like, no, you don't have to. I said, no, today I'm going to do it.
Sure.
I'm like, just sit in the back, just chill. Bro, I'm not lying. We get in the car. He's sitting, you know, his wife is sitting in the back. He's sitting in the front. And his wife is like, hey, like, I'm enjoying this.
Nice.
I'm like,
that's about way more than just protecting the person's life.
Oh man, Wait, let me finish the story, right? So, bro, so we get to service, everything's good. You know, I drive him home, I leave him at home, somebody picks him up from his house. And then I remember then then I said to him, sir, whenever you're gonna do multiple campuses, I'm gonna be there. He's like, cool. The one that really, I don't know if it broke my heart. So he preaches at the one service. So as the service is finished, I'm like, okay, I'll get the car ready. I prep everything, you know, his water, jackets, change of clothes and stuff like that. He gets in the car. We leave. I think it's about a 20-minute drive to the next campus.
Oh.
I think about 3-4 minutes, there's silence in the car. And I look and he's sleeping. Man, like, Dan, I don't know if it broke my heart, like, this is painful.
Yeah.
Or it was like, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
Because the man was at rest.
Yeah.
So I think about 3-4 minutes before we get to the next venue, he realizes he's sleeping, so he wakes up. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's like, hey man, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's okay. You've got 3 more minutes to rest. I'm like, you just see, you carry on sleeping.
I'm here to add value to you.
You're taking it.
Yeah.
Bro, and I'm like, and I asked him, I said, but how do you do this on Sunday?
Yeah.
How much pressure do you have, the responsibility that you gotta go there, literally preach your lungs out, get in the car, sober up, drive, get back into the zone, preach a storm, change people's lives, sober up, get back in the car. Like how do you do it? He says, Sunday, that's all I know.
Wow. Sure.
And then I'm like, but you've got people that you pay serious salaries for to take care of your church and to take care of you. He says, Sandile, no one has ever suggested this to you.
Wow.
So I think this is also, an eye-opener for, church employees who've been employed to do something similar. That something as simple as just having somebody just, to drive a pastor.
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal. It's not someone says, well, why do pastors need that? I said, why do presidents need it?
Yes.
Why do mayors need it? Why do ministers? I said, trust me, all of those people, when it hits the fan in their lives, they go to the pastor.
Definitely.
I said, everybody,
how much more does he carry?
They end, even your therapist ends up there asking for that pastor to pray for him.
Yes.
So how much more should we be doing all that we can to take care of that man?
Definitely.
Because when you take care of that man, the other person is sorted out.
Definitely.
The minister of,
Definitely.
The president is good.
Yeah.
Whether it's forget politics. Yeah. The point is, everybody at some stage comes back to the church and say, Pastor, I actually need you to pray for me.
Yeah.
So how much more then should we be doing? Even as those people that have been placed strategically within management positions or fields in the church saying, sir, we realize maybe you need something like this.
Yes.
But we're going to do this for you.
Yes.
Out of the goodness of our hearts. We're going to get you a security driver, whatever, while we're still taking care of the church as a whole. I mean, a friend of mine is a pastor. I mean, he had something happened. I saw it on his Facebook. I think he was pulled over by cops for speeding or something crazy like that. And I said to him, I just said, if I drove for you, you wouldn't have those problems.
Yeah.
Or if you had somebody to take care of that, you wouldn't have those problems, right? And people and pastors and churches will be surprised that sometimes it's just a matter of saying, hey, guys, can somebody assist us with this?
Yes.
And man, you'll have more than enough people that are just willing to assist with that.
Definitely.
But the responsibility comes from the church, from the pastor, say, we realize there's a problem. We realize that not just the church is under attack. I mean, just general life is dangerous, man.
Yes.
But people want to come to church and feel safe. Yeah. And as church security members, we've got a responsibility, I think, to do that.
Definitely, but I mean, I think there's just been so much value that you've shared with us right now. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm going, man, you're just doing it all. I just kind of want to give you the money, just have you roll with it, I just want you to talk.
It's our thing. It's our thing. Yeah.
Listen, man, you've touched on so many great and so many valuable things. But what would you recommend a church does in the first step towards going, okay, guys, none of us has a clue as to what's going on with security.
Yeah.
How do we go about procuring?
Yeah.
For someone to come in,
we
may not even be able to afford a full-on detail right now.
And you don't need one. You don't.
But how do we go about procuring for someone that can actually come in and help us create some sort of structure?
Look, I mean, I'll say, regardless where you're on the world, first things first, I think get hold of a professional security company.
Yeah.
Like, don't look at this as a church. Just look at it as a normal venue.
Yes.
A normal building that needs security. A building that brings people in for an event. So first, I think, look at it like that. Because the moment you look at it from a church perspective, then you're going to get weird about it.
Yes.
You're going to say, oh, the security owner must be a Christian guy.
Yes.
He must be born again. He must be... No. Just get a security firm. Look, I mean, shop around.
Yes.
I mean, now, shop around, call in 2 or 3 of them, ask them to come do like a proper risk assessment, then run them through what you do as an institution. So what makes you unique from the nightclub, from the whatever.
Yeah.
And then that security professional then will say, okay, then for your specific needs, you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what, you... So first things first, just reach out to a security agency. I mean, this is what you do as well. I mean, you do that for a living.
Yeah.
And I think you also do it from a career perspective, you've been doing this, right? But you only limited to the region that you are at.
Yeah.
I mean, you can only do that right now in Joburg, right?
Yes.
So, guys, I mean, not because he's my friend, but I've known him, right? Good, good guy, good company. I do some consulting work through his company as well, right? So, yeah, but if you're not in Johannesburg or Pretoria or Gauteng, go to just 2 or 3 security companies, tell them this is what you are looking for, and then they can custom make something then for the church. But as a whole, as a start, don't look at it from a church perspective. Just say, hey, it's a location, people come together for services, whatever. What can we put in place? That's a good start. And then at a later stage, then, you want to get into your training, which is very specialized. I mean, you do that as well. So you're getting now somebody who specializes in church security. And trust me, there's not a lot of people who do that.
Yeah.
So then you get that done. Then go take your ushers through some sort of training, right? Where you're saying, okay, then how do we identify the bad guy? But as a church, we can't just handle him like the nightclub.
Sure.
Right? How do we handle this disgruntled person?
But still protect the reputation of the church.
Of course.
Because that is a big thing. That's a big thing.
Course.
You also don't want the church to be on, the first thing on a Monday morning, it's on the front page because, listen here, the security team at that church, beat up this person or whatever.
Exactly. Right. So how do we handle this? People who come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that comes through policies, procedures, and structures. So your paperwork.
Sure.
So what paperwork is there in place to guide what you're doing? So I think for me, it's that as a start. Get a professional agency, come look at what you're doing, put something in place. It doesn't have to be much.
Yeah.
Speak to your people, get your ushers on board as a pastor, get your congregation on board, because you need them to be on your side. You don't want to...
You need the buy-in.
Yeah, you need the buy-in from your people, right? Have those honest, painful discussions with them and let the change happen. It won't be easy.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it in my life where we started putting specific measures.
Yes.
Where even now, the congregant members are like, yeah, but things used to be like this. Yeah, they were, but now...
Times has changed, and so do we. Yeah.
And let's allow that change. And normal congregant members, I think, choose to be on board for this because it's for your greater good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think, from my side, man, I think it's pretty much that. I think thanks for the opportunity, I think, to talk about this. I think out of many topics, I think it's a very specialized one, and it's a very interesting one. And I'm sure that I think there's still way more that we didn't unpack.
No, I think there's still so much more to unpack, and we'll definitely have you back again because, again, I think with you, just your experiences that you bring complements your knowledge that you have, within not just the industry, but the situation and vice versa. Yeah. And we appreciate you. Thanks for making the time. We absolutely appreciate your time. So Sandile literally just came back yesterday. He's here today to do this. He's heading off now to do another podcast somewhere. And on Monday, he's actually heading back onto task. So we really do appreciate the fact that he made the time to come and do this with us. Again, like I said, I know that this is something that he's super passionate about, and I'm sure you guys can take it from everything that he's shared with us here today. Brother, again, thank you just for being a brother towards me. Thank you just for journeying with me. Thank you for the relationship that we share, and thank you for the amount of excellence that you carry within the industry.
Thanks, man.
You're one of the guys within the close protection industry that I really can say has very, very high standards. There's no doubt in my mind that everywhere you go, you just add tremendous value. And I'm sure that the listener, the viewer over here, has gained so much.
Hope so.
From this. No. Sure, I don't doubt that. I really don't doubt that. So thank you so much for being here, man. Thank you so much for doing this.
All right, thanks, man. We'll see you guys soon.
Okay, thanks, man. Just fun.